Mexico is experiencing a great deal of outflow of money. We analyzed the outflow that goes through illicit channels. Our estimate is $872 billion since 1970, that is the period 1970 to 2010. We think these estimates are conservative because there are a number of elements that are not included in that figure. We utilize published data sources to do our analysis. The figures that we use are drawn from information that the government of Mexico files with the International Monetary Fund and information that other countries that trade with Mexico likewise file with the IMF. Currently, it's running a little over 6% of gross domestic product of Mexico. That's a hugely damaging outflow of money that minimizes what would be available otherwise for roads, schools, hospitals, social services, for the improvement of the economy of Mexico.
We have seen a continuous increase in illicit financial flows. Starting from 1970 until the year 2007, there was a slight dip, not because of any improvements in governance, but rather just because globally there was less money that was being transferred due to the global recession. 2010, however, we have seen that these flows have been able to pick up again. In 2010, $68 billion, US dollars.
The money is directed at the United States principally. Secondly, towards fiscal paradises, paraísos fiscales, usually in the Caribbean and other places. And thirdly, to European favored jurisdictions for this kind of transaction.
Drug cartels, to some extent, use the legitimate financial system to take some of their money and deposit it into banks and so forth. But we think that much more of their money is handled as bulk cash, and that does not show up in our data at all. So if you were to add that to the figures that we develop, you would come up with higher estimates. This is why we think our data is quite conservative.
The problem is even greater with fiscal paradises who are under no obligation to explain where the money's come from, where it's being sent to, and what it's being ultimately used for. Now, these are major issues that affect not just Mexico and the United States, but all major countries in the West, and certainly all countries in the developing world.
The encompassing concept is transparency, greater transparency in financial dealings.
One of the issues which we refer to in this report, which is very important, is that the international banking system does not yet require sufficient data to be produced by banks so that the world outside can tell how much money is coming into that country, where it's held, and where it's coming from.
A major part of illicit flows stems from the mispricing of trade that Mexico has with other countries. There are various mechanisms by which Mexico could spotlight and reduce that mispricing of trade.
With Mexico having the G20 this summer, here in Mexico, it's an extremely important opportunity for this country, which is the 13th largest economy in the world, to get something done about this. We're talking about 40 years of transactions in Mexico, not just this government or the last. These are fundamental issues at the heart of the way you run a structured economy that any government of any country eventually has to deal with.